Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. I'm joined by Mathias Zeumer of usecure. Mathias, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris. Thank you for having me.
So I always kind of preface this with almost any podcast episode, like what's the show title? And this time we're talking about the human element of risk, how that factors in to governance and organization maturity, largely because with cybersecurity, cybersecurity is really not going to happen if governance isn't well defined. And I was reached out to by someone on your team that said, "Hey, I think Mathias would be a good fit for the show because," and I went out and checked out what usecure does, and I was immediately thinking the same thing. And so, if you would just give a little bit of a rundown about what usecure does, and then we'll jump into the show because I think the context of a little bit about usecure will help tell the story of I think what we want to share with our audience.
Sure, yeah, be glad to. So, usecure is a human risk management solution built for MSPs, right? It has four components, so security awareness training, phishing campaigns, dark web monitoring that's happening in the background, and policy management, right? All of these are heavily automatable for MSPs, but also can be tweaked and individualized. So yeah, I think in terms of human risk management and governance and what we've talked about, I think especially the policy management piece comes into play here, right?
Yeah, so I know that with usecure, one would say that if we're talking about CIS top 18, usecure would cover pretty much in completeness control 14, right? Security skills and awareness training,
Yeah.
which I think there's a lot of products and services out there that are in sort of that domain that cover that education piece. But what I thought was, different and you kind of shared a little bit of it is the piece that's saying human risk management. And I think to some of the things you talked about, like, so we get the training, that's pretty common. What we
Yeah.
don't see a lot of is good phishing simulation that really targets and drills down on, say, me, Chris Johnson, or fill in the blank who the person is. And I think and then on the flip side of that, when someone does click on the link that they're not supposed to or doesn't report it, the education that needs to happen to help prevent that in the future often doesn't come along with it. And I just keep you curious if you'd seen that, like, what's the draw that one would say is why I went to usecure as opposed to so many of those that are out there?
Right. So yeah, I mean, again, it was from the get-go built for MSPs. We know MSPs have a lot of solutions that they have to manage already. So this, with the automation piece, it is very scalable in that sense. It's incredibly easy to onboard a new customer. That can be done in under 20 minutes, and then you can automate all of that. The training aspect, it starts with the gap analysis, which I think is another differentiator in the training space. A new user will take a gap analysis, and then they get training courses sent based on their weakest points.
Oh, interesting.
And then go to the ones where they scored stronger, right? In terms of phishing, same thing. It's easy to automate. There's a Microsoft and a Google Workspace integration, so that means new users get imported. Users that leave the company, get taken out of billing, get taken out essentially.
Yeah, offboarded.
Offboarded, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Automatically through the daily Azure Active Directory sync here, right? Now you mentioned targeted phishing, right? So there's hundreds of templates, and we have we operate in different markets. So there's different templates for Australia, for Canada, for French-speaking Canada, for English-speaking Canada, for the US, so on and so forth, right? And MSPs can set it and forget it, automate it, say we only want US English from US market, and that gets sent out at whatever time they choose, once a month, once every 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks,
Sure.
what have you. But there's also the option to, there's a very easy way, an intuitive way to build spear phishing campaigns. Now that can be used to for prospecting customers or prospect customers, right? There's 2 week trials, um, or it can be used for, if you know, for C-level, target C-level specifically,
Sure.
where hey Chris, he's a real buff in this stuff. You know, he's complaining the phishing campaigns are too easy. Cool. You can easily build a campaign that's tailored to you, a spear phishing campaign that can even come from your boss's email, right? From his email. Now,
I mean, I love clicking on links. Let's be honest. I mean, like that link tells me that there's something on the other side that I probably want. So why wouldn't I click? Especially if it says you've won an Amazon gift card.
precisely. I mean, those are the
Right.
best, right?
Those are the
Yeah.
best. So,
Yeah.
it's funny. We were talking about this right before we hit record for this episode. We were talking about some of the things like, why do people still fall for it? And you shared with me the one that's, if there's enough scare behind it,
Hmm.
there's definitely a substantial risk that someone would
Yeah.
in fact fall for the scam just because of the if you can instill fear in somebody, we tend to make, rash decisions, right? But I but then we kind of went down the path of like, but what about the ones that we know are obvious? Why do you think the boss sends you the email, get me gift cards, I need them for whatever, or can
Hmm.
you talk right now? Or, I've even seen the ones that are actually mind-boggling that says, are you busy right now? Like no matter what your answer is, regardless of who's on the other end, it seems very benign. And so
Right.
I was just curious, what are you seeing in some of the ways in which that gets handled? Because I think there's a big gap in education on this is part of the reason why it still happens today.
Agreed. I mean, again, so yes, fear, we talked about fear and shame. I think those are the 2 biggest ones that will, sort
Sure.
of lure somebody into following along with it. I also think the random ones, whether it's the CEO reaching out, are you busy? When I started working at usecure, within 48 hours, I had my CEO emailing me, hey, can I have your cell phone number, please? Right? My first
Right.
instinct was, oh, sure, I should do that. He wants my, but again, like hold
Right.
on, pause. That's the important part, to pause, obviously, and that's where the
Sure.
education piece comes in. Um, but I think they work. A People are not educated, or they don't really understand it, or whatever. That happens. But I think the other one is, if you do get an email from the CEO, you do want to respond timely. You don't want to look, like an idiot, or it
Right.
took too long. You're not in front of your desk or whatever. So again, there's a
Right.
little bit of a fear component, maybe also, you know, oh,
The urgency.
he or she's asking me, right? The urgency,
Yeah.
right? But then also, look, we're all super busy. I
Right.
mean, we all have 5 different projects going on at the same time, and then there's Slack or there's Teams, right? There's little things on the side. Oftentimes we're distracted. And the more we're distracted, I feel like, the more we'll do something, and we won't pause, right? Something that
Right.
in hindsight will be, why didn't I think about this type thing? So again, I think the education piece is important, to just train people to pause and really take a second look. I mean, then
Yeah.
all the obvious, right? Like hover over it, like where is this leading me? Is this really going
Yeah.
somewhere? Or would my CEO, or would my this person ask me for gift cards, right? Like all of that stuff. But I think that the component of being so stretched thin oftentimes and distracted
Yeah.
can will have people make mistakes, right?
We create our own urgency because of our own habits, right? Like, I'm going to address this right at this moment because it's right in front of me. Or, I heard the one where, you see the banners in someone's email that says this came from an external sender, and the client saying, "Hey, we're really going to need you to move that to the bottom of the page." And the answer, obviously is, "Why don't you want to see that right away?" It's like, well, because then I have to scroll to see what's in the email, like when I'm at a traffic light or like, and you're like, but why are you, and I digress, but like that's
Yeah.
a real problem, right? Like we've gotten to the point where we're so desensitized to what bad things are out there that we are more concerned about making sure that we still get the things that we probably don't really need to get as urgently as we seem to make them, right? Like if I don't see that email today, it's not the end of the world because you can pick up the phone and call me. You can send me
Right.
a text message. Like there's other ways to communicate if you really need to get a hold of me besides email. And I think we have way too many ways to communicate with each other as to be honest. Like, I didn't answer on Slack. Maybe I'll hit him up on Signal or Teams or like fill in the blank. Um, so that brings me to kind of the next question on the education component. Do you provide direction that was like say built by usecure around how to get around some of that? Like I would think that I would want to see, and I haven't seen it yet in a lot of the education that's out there is, hey, if I'm going to communicate with you, these are the two ways or three ways that I'm going to do it. Is that something that you guys incorporate into your education?
I don't think we have a course specifically on that or a guideline on that. It's something I'll look into that, but it's a good point that you're raising, right? What are the company guidelines or what are
Right.
our ways of communicating? And that is something that certainly could be, done through a company policy or, a
Right.
company culture, company policy where you say, look, in our company, we will nobody will ever ask you for X, Y, and Z, or emails will be sent or start in a certain way,
Sure.
right? Something that would certainly maybe be even something if credentials are lost or credentials are stolen and somebody
Sure.
comes into, now they're into in a Teams group or something, right? And now it is really, oh, Chris and I are on Teams, we're coworkers. He's asking me for real this stuff. It's his teams. Nobody from the outset could come in. But if you're asking something that's really funny, right? That's something that doesn't seem right. And maybe you're my superior, or you're the
Sure.
VP, or you're our C level,
Yeah.
whatever. And I don't want to question that. But back to your point, I think it would be probably really helpful to have certain company guidelines and rules of,
Yeah.
how we operate, how we communicate, and what we'll never ask. Similar to
It
like a
it goes
bank
back to
that
your first
says,
question,
yeah,
or your not your first question, but the comment you made about getting hired and being asked for your cell phone number. It's not necessarily a weird request, but it should create pause uh, because it's being asked, right? Like the things that involve our identity, cell phone, email, any of those things. If you're asked for them, period,
yeah.
it should give you pause, right? And I think I actually had this happen the other day. I got a text message that says, I've locked myself out of my Google account. Can you help me? And I'm like, I recognized the contact that match. It had a picture with the contact. I was like 20% certain that it was the actual person, which is
Hmm.
not good odds, right?
Right.
So I called the person and recognized the voice, and in my head, I'm going, but even that can get spoofed now. And so I
AI.
said, all right, I need you to humor me. I'm going to ask you a series of three questions that I know that only you would be able to answer.
Yep.
And he starts laughing as I'm asking him these questions. And when we get done, he goes, why did you make me go through those hoops? I go, think about your text message. How long have we known each other? He goes, well, a few years now, 3 years, 4 years. I go, have you ever forgotten your credentials to log into Google? He goes, no, this is the first time. I go, so you can understand why I had like the hair go up on the back of my neck. And he goes, I never even thought about that. I'm like, yeah. I said, so from this point forward, if you're asking for anything via text or phone, I'm going to ask you those questions or different questions just so that I am not going to feel like something bad, doomsday is about to happen if I give you the answer you're looking for.
This is excellent. I mean, this is really excellent advice in general. I think, we've seen this happen, right? More and more where somebody calls and it's the child parents, right? It's a teenage
Yeah,
child or somebody who's a young adult or something, and it's their voice. And they're saying,
sure.
hey, I'm in trouble, I'm in jail, I'm going to hand you over to a lawyer. You need to wire them $2,000 to let me come home, or whatever it is, right? And people have
Yeah,
fallen for it because
sure.
again, there's fear and shock and all of that. So in this incident, back to your point, having a having a code of conduct. I mean, in a family, maybe you call it, something else, but like having like a standard way or something to
Dad's
identify,
rules.
right? Right. But having something where like, all right, answer me this, or
Sure.
what's our code word here to understand you're
Sure.
really in trouble and I need to act on this, right? And that can be done within companies certainly as well, but it's
I
important
like that.
nevertheless, right?
Yeah.
And even in families now, but and
Social
friendships or
media. I mean, you think about what people post, like, "Hey, I'm in Bermuda." Like, why would you post that you're in Bermuda? Like that says a couple things. One, you're not at home,
yeah.
and two, I can think of a lot of ways to now target you specifically that you would think that it had to be someone that you know, because who shares in social media with people they don't know, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's
To
yeah,
to get
right. I
the
mean,
like.
100% exactly. And it's still happening, right?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
is still
The
100%
Nigerian
happening.
prince scam is still happening, right? Like that was you used to get those through your fax machine, and it's still, even if it's not that exact one, the concept behind it is still very much alive.
Yeah. By the way, have you gotten your money yet? Because I am still waiting.
I am still waiting. Like
This,
I mean, even if it was, I would even be happy if it was a check that would bounce. I would at least feel good about getting something like that. He does exist. He's just
yeah.
now broke because we didn't get this done in time.
I mean, you must be king by now. Come on,
I mean,
like
at least he's probably the
yeah,
only one still alive. That's
that's right.
yeah,
If you hear this, we're still
yeah.
waiting. We're good guys.
Please,
I mean,
please let us know. Yeah. How
right.
can we help
But
you? Yeah.
I can't believe that's still around. But I mean, yeah, it's getting more and more sophisticated. I mean, all of the, human risk management, different components of it. I mean, certainly the first two, the standard ones, security awareness training and phishing. It just
Yeah.
get people aware. And again, I mean, you and I and probably everybody's listening here and MSPs, they all get there, right? We're all security
Right.
focused people. Um, but there are end users. There are millions and millions and millions of end users out there who are not, right? Like
Right.
they might now not answer the Prince scam, right? Like wire me money and then I'll get you a few million. But uh, phishing attacks, I mean, what are the numbers?
Right.
3.5 billion phishing emails sent per day, right?
Right.
Something's gonna
It's
stick.
astronomical. Yeah.
It's astronomical. Something's gonna stick. Human error in breaches, right, is around 80 to 90% still. It's not all phishing related, right? Like there's
Right.
passwords, weak passwords, shared passwords, leak
I
pass.
mean,
This,
yeah, when you break
but
it down, like it's interesting because we've, watching like the Verizon breach report, and you can see what it was over the years. Like you go back to like 2013, 2014, and it's like there's like four or five quadrants, and now there's like 20 that are
right,
broken down, and
right,
the ability to track at a granular level. But one of the things that's still really high on that list is just user error. And
right.
it got me thinking, like, how much of user error was tied to they weren't able to discern if one of those other things was the actual byproduct. So like human error could be I clicked on a link, right? Like, or
Yeah,
human error, installed something that they grabbed the wrong version. It wasn't actually Dropbox, those kind of things. Uh, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, do you think that the employee operates with a completely different mindset than the consumer? So like I am the same person, but I have different, my brain shifts gears, right? When I'm at home, family and friends, I
hmm,
operate differently with technology than I might when I'm working as an employee. Going back to your comment, do you think, with regards to policy and the comment you made about having, a code of conduct or a policy at home, I'm wondering if that is a missing component to this entire ecosystem, is that we're not focused on educating them as a consumer as much as we are as an employee of an organization, following company policy versus
hmm,
like, this is something you should be applying to yourself and your family and your friends when you go home, because the probability of compromise at work from all the security things that we put in place is still much, much lower than what it's
right,
going to be for the consumer who now brings that back
right.
to the office.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yeah, I think, and hopefully with, at work you get trained. At work you get your, monthly bite-sized security
Sure.
awareness training and hopefully that will just keep you on edge and keep you alerted
Yeah.
even when you go home and
Sure.
you are in your private email where you don't have an EDR or an MDR protecting you, right? But that this will sort of stick. Now there's it can branch out more. I mean, having a a password between family members or something, right? Like
Sure.
that's something that is a step up, but I would hope that people who are educated at work will take that education home and will
Yeah.
pause as well when they're with
Well, let me ask you a question. I
private
have seen
device.
this with a few vendors that are out there that are like, this URL, go to this URL. It's a free for that user consumption of the training of whatever it is.
Hmm.
Have you guys ever thought about, or you see this with vendors like, password managers that, I got a subscription, or even like, anti-malware, they'll be like, this is your work license, but because we want everybody to be secure, you also get five, you know,
Hmm.
personal or family licenses to go with it. Have you guys ever thought about something like that where, as a company is consuming your solution, that there's a path for them to go, hey, wait a second, this isn't just important for CJ or to do this. It's important for anybody to do this.
Um, that is a good point. I'll bring that back to my team and see how that could work and if it could work. I think certainly it's a good thought, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're a consumer through your work, right? If that link can be shared with, family members or something. I don't know how the logistics of that will work. I
sure.
understand with
Yeah.
the password manager, but listen, I think it's a good idea
It,
overall, right?
beyond the human element, just think about all of the devices that we have at home that we're not allowed to have at work. But one
Yeah.
device we carry to both places is the phone.
Yeah.
Well, I guess even in two would be like our laptops. They often move back and forth between those two
Yeah.
ecosystems.
Yeah.
And one is hopefully really, really secure. And the other one we know we will never truly be able to secure. So, you wonder like if everybody in the less secure environment, going back to the human component, if they're all in harmony with what is acceptable, like, nope, you're not going to install that app on your phone because it does these things. You start to build a more elastic and secure ecosystem that's not tied directly to what happens to me when I'm at work.
I mean, that would be ideal, honestly. And if there were services, yeah, that could, whatever you have,
Then it would be we secure.
it'd be it'd be all secure. That's right.
It'd be all secure. There we go.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
then, then,
certainly, I
then
think
certain countries wouldn't like that. They don't want all secure because then they can't get into whatever it is without, someone's gonna have to create a back door for somebody.
I mean, they're trying
We'll
that
call that
anyways,
too
as it
secure.
is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's certainly it's a great question, Chris. I really like the thought of it, and what vendors can or
sure.
would, or I mean, how do, like, do you at home? I mean, you might, but at home, do you have EDR? Do you have SIEM, SASE? Do you have anything that's network protecting your network other than a
I
strong
would I would
password?
imagine if I answer that question in any way, shape, or form, the people listening to this may start actually just seeing how secure or not secure my ecosystem is. Um, but what I will say is you just rattled off a bunch of acronyms that I think even with the audience, not everybody's going to know what all of those are. And one of the challenges, you mentioned SIM or SIEM, Seam Store, those types of solutions, those are just now starting to be affordable in, say, a home ecosystem,
Mhm.
right? Where I can buy into probably more of a third party providing a service that will cater to a much smaller group, or I can use tools that allow me to be very, very isolated. At home for a very low cost, product services out there like Cloudflare would be one that comes to mind, with free services that genuinely want us to be more secure. But I think to your point, I think the challenge is less about how much security layers we add at home and more about the education, the human element about how we operate. Like, don't
Yeah.
put certain things on social media, maybe leave a light on, maybe have a camera system or some of those more physical and environmental security components. Because, I mean, I live in the country, I'm 5 miles from the closest actual town.
Right.
Someone would have to really go out of their way to attack my ecosystem, like to get on my Wi-Fi kind of thing. Yes,
Right.
I and even if my Wi-Fi was open, like
Right.
it's not, but like
Right.
you would still have to get into the proximity of a range of my house to get to it. So I think it's yes, those things are important at some level, but I think the human element, going back to what USecure is all about,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
you can't solve for the security, and I mean, post COVID, I mean, when COVID happened and everybody went to work from home, everybody panicked because they're like, how are we going to secure everybody's home network?
Right.
You're not.
Right.
But that
Right.
doesn't mean you can't secure the device that's on the home network. And it
Right.
was a real mental shift for so many. And we see this in the frameworks, right? If you look at any of the frameworks out there, a lot of them, we now have to just interpret the spirit of the safeguard, because the
Right.
reality is, I don't have a server in my office, or I don't,
Right.
or home office, or I don't have a server, or, the things have changed, but the spirit of the safeguards have not, right? So like,
Right.
just because it's all in the cloud and you said, well, I don't have a server on-prem, so I don't need a firewall.
Right.
Well, doesn't there need to be a firewall securing what's in? So anyways,
You,
um,
I mean, you're absolutely right. It does come down to the education. I mean, security is not just the technology, it's also the behavior, right? And yes, absolutely, MSPs should have for their customers should have the suite, if you will, right? Or
yeah,
at least an EDR, MDR, right? Like at least backup for everything, at least email
sure.
security and all of that kind of stuff. And to reduce, so I'm going to give an example, right? Like employees, humans, just from a cybersecurity standpoint, there's so much more than that. But just from a
Yeah,
cybersecurity standpoint, they're essentially two things. They're your first line of defense and they're your biggest risk factor, right?
right.
If the education isn't there, if they are not cyber aware, now they're all of a sudden just one of those two, which is the biggest
Right.
risk factor. You need everything in place to if something comes through, which inevitably it will, right?
Yeah,
You need to have something in place. Just having the behavior and the data and the risk score
right.
of your employees and your humans is not enough. But certainly the education needs to be there, in order to be that first line of defense. Because also,
Sure.
like from an MSP perspective, if you have cyber aware customers, and I know it's probably, harder to sell the customer on it. MSPs understand, I think, how important, human risk management is, but
Sure.
the more educated and cyber vigilant end users, customers you have, the less it'll fall on you. The more you
Sure.
can enjoy a holiday break, because we know
Right.
that's when all that stuff usually goes down, or a lot of it, right?
Right.
You
Or
you know
just
you
on a Saturday.
or just on a Saturday. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
right. But you're investing, like, it's an investment into yourself
for
and into
sure.
your customers, because hopefully they will click on one thing, because all it takes is one to
Right.
to ruin your
Yeah,
Saturday.
the bar is not very high for the bad guy, right? Like, you don't have to be good at this. You just have to be good once.
True, and with AI, like it was easy to spot like poor English, and you're like, yeah, that's not from Amazon. I don't think, or from whatever. But now with AI, it's the harvesting of social
Sure.
media, right? There's AI tools that harvest all kinds of data, so now it can be more targeted, and then it's also written in perfect English or in perfect French or in perfect whatever, wherever you are, right? And
Yeah.
so it's harder to spot that, right?
We
But
just had
the
a conversation about the idioms that are now coming through with AI. Like, just because I translate to another language in my own voice, does it reflect to the native language speaker? And they're
Mhm.
saying that the idioms now are coming through where the translations is being also converted, so that it's not just in that language and with the accent and all of the things that go with it. It's being done almost perfect. Like, it's hard to detect if it's fake. Before we
Right.
run out of time, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you if you would share a little bit about the process that you went through with Matt Lee and the program of identifying how your product, your service, aligns with and was mapped to Control 14. Because I know it's not a just call Matt Lee and he's like, I knight you as Control 14, you're good to go.
Right. I was not the person who was involved in that process. I think at that time I was actually still a
Oh, you weren't
coworker.
there yet.
I was a
Oh,
coworker of Matt Lee at that point.
oh, okay.
But so yeah, I was not involved in that process. I know
That's
that we
okay.
fully mapped to, Control 14, and then we satisfy partially, I don't know, 13 others of them. So
Sure.
apologies. I would like to talk
No, that's
to
okay.
about that. Would have liked to be in the room when that happened, but um,
The only reason I was gonna plug it really was, since I
Yeah.
can't then describe the process, we can at least let people know.
Yeah.
Um, we've been talking about this off and on throughout. Like, hey, if you're a vendor and you listen to this show, I would encourage you to consider reaching out to Matt Lee and saying, hey, we're interested in getting our product service aligned with whatever safeguards it does align with, and it helps your consumers of your products, right? Because that gives us confidence that you're helping us meet certain requirements that we have, and we don't have to go chasing, because you can't just Google the safeguard of today and get results that help you go, oh, I can
Right.
now make a decision because there's these 3 or 4 options. No, it's just like knowing is half the battle, right?
I mean, I agree. I mean, you've been in this space for a long time, and you've been talking about, policies and frameworks for what, 5 years or something or
Yeah,
more.
at
So,
least that long, yeah.
right. And so has Matt Lee, and following both of you and others, it seems like I mean, there has been a push for a long time, but it's more and more we're getting there, right? Like
Right.
following frameworks, whether it's CIS or NIST, or if in Europe NIST too, whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
but or GTIAs, right? The trust fund,
Sure.
like get involved, get started. I think
Yeah.
that's the message,
Agreed.
for
Yes.
pick one. Like, don't hesitate. You don't have to be perfect the first time, or it's like just get the process started. I think overall is the message here, right? For to,
Yeah.
to be compliant, be secure and compliant, right? Um,
That's a great place to stop. Matthias, where can people find you?
People can find us. You mean on which, like,
Yeah, like if
marketplace
someone
or?
wanted to reach out and ask you questions on LinkedIn or
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Matthias Zeumer. I don't know if that gets blended in or.
I
um,
will make sure that it's in the notes for the podcast.
Perfect.
I
Yeah, find me
appreciate
on
it.
LinkedIn. My email
Yeah,
is matthias@usecure.io. And yeah, happy to answer any questions,
awesome.
always.
Well, I appreciate your time. For those of you listening, this has been an episode of MSP 1337. Thanks and have a great week.